The land explored by our ancestors extends from Altai to the White Sea. The scientific expedition Trails of Nomads continues to unveil the path of our forefathers. Its leader is a true citizen of the world. He believes without a deep understanding of the past, there is no future. Each journey is focused on a detailed study of history and culture. Pilgrim of the 21st century, Sapari Skakov, with a team of scientists, has already visited more than 50 countries. Scientists reveal the exciting secrets of the past. Watch an amazing story of a great journey in the Trails of Nomads program. Today's Trails of Nomads episode presents Trails of Nomads scientific expedition team continues its trip in Jordan. What monuments of the Mamluk era were found here? Who restored the Ajlung Castle? How do local historians evaluate the rule of the Kipchak Sultans? Jordan's land is full of monuments preserved from the Mamluk era. One of the most significant is Ajlung Castle, located 70 kilometers northwest of the capital city Amman. Defensive structures were erected on high altitude to ensure a good overview of the area. Ajlun stands 750 meters above sea level. The participants of the scientific expedition Trails of Nomads, headed by the famous traveler Sapari Skakov, got acquainted with this historical place, collected the necessary information about the buildings and structures erected during the domination of the Kipchak Sultans.
Салғандағы мақсаттары крестьянстардан қорғану, қаланы қорғау.
Ashland Castle is located on Jamal Ajlun Mountain. It was built in 1184 by representatives of the Ayyubid dynasty. Its main purpose was to protect the city from the Crusaders. This is a very large castle. The thickness of the walls is about 10 meters. It is surrounded by a moat filled with water. Its width is 15 meters. Its depth is up to 12 meters. Therefore, it was very difficult to storm the castle. The castle built by Salah ad-Din could withstand the Crusaders. However, after the Ayyubid army liberated the Al-Qara castle from enemies, the situation changed. The load on the Ajlung Castle decreased and strategically it became less significant, but not for long. Under the Mamluks, the castle became as powerful as Al-Qarak and its influence intensified again. During the reign of Sultan Baybars and other Kipchak Sultans, more new buildings appeared. The defense system was strengthened. As a result, security was provided in all regions of Jordan.
عجلون تعتبر من المدن أو المراكز الرئيسية.
Ajlung Castle played an important role in ensuring Jordan's security, especially in the Mamluk era. From this place, the trade caravans going to Egypt and Damascus, as well as the pilgrims' routes to Mecca and Medina, were controlled. There are a lot of buildings constructed during the period of the Kipchak Sultans.
وأيضا شيدت في عهد صلاح الدين الأيوبي.
The second Sultan of the Mamluks, Is ad-Din Aybek, before accession to the throne, was the Emir of Ajlung Castle. He restored the castle and built tower and gate on the southeast side. This information is indicated on a stone tablet in one of the towers of the castle. All of the above objects were destroyed during the Battle of Ain Jalut with the Mongol invaders in 1260.
يتطلع أو نتطلع إحنا في
The battle at Ain Jalut took place 30 kilometers from Ajlung Castle. Now it is the territory of Israel, or rather the Palestinian Authority. During this battle, part of the castle was damaged. Military installations and fortifications were destroyed.
الانفتاح الثقافي على ثقافة الأردن وثقافة كازاخستان.
The Ain Jalut battle was crucial not only for the state of the Mamluks, but for the entire Muslim world. The grandson of Genghis Khan, Hulagu, captured Baghdad in 1258 and killed the Abbasi Caliph. In 1259, he raided the land of Sham, subjugated Aleppo and Damascus. Jerusalem, Mecca, and Medina, as well as Egypt, stood in line for the capture. But the ruler Kipchak Sultan and the military commander Baybar stopped the Mongol army at the Ajlung Castle. Despite the power of the enemy's army, which consisted of a union of allies, the Kipchaks won the battle at Ain Jalut.
الملك الظاهر بيبرس يعني خاض معركتين أساسيتين وفاصليتين هي معركة
In 1260, al-Malik al-Zahir Rukn al-Din Baybars, as a reward for courage and heroism in battles against the Mongol invaders and crusaders, was elected the Sultan of the Mamluk state. After ascending the throne, he rebuilt cities and castles, constructed new bridges, mosques, and other important facilities for the people. Restoration work was also carried out at Ashland Castle.
عمل على إدارة أو إنشاء دار للعدل.
During the reign of Sultan Baybars, Ajlun was not only a castle providing security but also a warehouse for storing food. In its environs, people were engaged in animal husbandry, agriculture, and the cultivation of fruits, berries, and vegetables. This is stated by Jordanian researchers. During the reign of Sultan Baybars, agriculture developed rapidly.
الظاهر الملك الظاهر بيبرس يعني هو كان أحد الممالك.
During the domination of al-Zahir Baybars, agriculture was developed. This is evidenced not only by medieval historians but also by the canal beds and places of plantations. Prosperity comes to people who work hard. Over 17 years of the reign of Baybars, the standard of living has grown significantly. Therefore, the name of the ruler has become a real legend.
اللي كان موجود.
The name of Sultan Baybars is remembered by descendants for many centuries. People appreciate and remember the wise and far-sighted policies of the ruler. Initially, this region suffered a lot of inter-religious conflicts. The Kipchak Sultan resolved all issues only peacefully. He defended the rights of all parties, maintained unity, harmony, and stability. Well-known religious scholar Karen Armstrong wrote about this in her work, Jerusalem, One City, Three Faiths. Sultan Baybars opened 2 religious centers in Jerusalem to ensure peace during the Easter holiday. The first was near Jericho and was dedicated to the Prophet Musa. The second was devoted to the Prophet Salih. It was built in Ramlan. This decision of Sultan Baybars changed people. They became more tolerant to other faiths. Representatives of one religion treated the meetings of others with understanding and always took into account their interests.
كان يتحرك من دمشق إلى القاهرة.
Sultan Baybars worked tirelessly to create a just society where people could live freely and in dignity. Moreover, he was always with the people. He was very mobile. If necessary, he quickly moved from one city to another and kept everything under control. Therefore, people always felt him near. That is, they had a feeling that his palace was not in faraway Cairo, but on Jordanian land. Sultan Baybars, a native of the Kipchak steppe, was so revered by the Arab people that he was even equated with the status of a pharaoh. The establishment of a yurt on the Cheops pyramid is proof of this. This is also indicated by scientists at the leading Yarmouk University in Jordan.
بالإضافة إلى هذه النواحي الاقتصادية فقد أثر المماليك في النواحي.
In my opinion, the yurt installed on the pyramid suggests that the Mamluks led by Sultan Baybars were worthy to rule Egypt. It is hard to say whether this is true, and yet I think this is very symbolic. Many important works of scientists of that time were written in the Kipchak language. This suggests that Arabs deeply respected Mamluks.
بطريقة المآذن المساجد أو أن يكون هناك رجل.
After the Az-Zahir Baybars dynasty, that is starting from 1279, Al-Mansur Qalawun and his descendants came to power in the Mamluk state. They, like their ancestors, paid great attention to the Ajlung Castle. Under Qalawun, destroyed buildings were restored and new ones were erected. But the defensive system of the castle remained the same. More facilities were built to benefit people and improve the standard of living.
وأيضا هناك صناعة أصبحت.
A lot of mosques and madrasas were built during the reign of Mamluks. Huge attention was paid to the sciences and education, which are the basis for economic advancement. During the tenure of the Kipchak Sultans, the Arab countries were flourishing. If the reign of the Mamluks continued and the Ottomans did not come, the situation now could be completely different. Unfortunately, many buildings and structures erected by the Kipchak Sultans have not been preserved. They were destroyed during the raids of enemies, earthquakes of 1837 and 1927. And yet the remaining buildings bring now considerable benefits to the Kingdom of Jordan. This can be judged by the number of tourists in Ajlung Castle.
المماليك يعني هم يعني من منطقة.
We assess the Mamluk period in the history of Jordan as an era of prosperity. They improved the standard of living of the people and left a great legacy for future generations. Therefore, of course, we are grateful to the land where these outstanding personalities came from. We know that in the 12th century they came from Central Asia, from the Kipchak steppe. The Kipchak steppe is a vast territory from Altai to the Danube.
فضلان هاي المنطقة يعني كان يتحدث بشكل مفصل وبشكل دقيق.
Members of the scientific expedition Trails of Nomads went around the historical buildings in Ajlung Castle and visited the museum, which houses exhibits with centuries of history. There are enough items of material heritage left by the Kipchak Sultans.
қазір біздің тұрған жеріміз мынау музейдің іші. Бұл музейде сол замандағы болған артефакт.
Now we are in the museum. It is quite small, but there are a lot of artifacts, different jugs, various lamps. There are inscriptions on the stones.
Шамдардың түрлері әртүрлі. Соларды сол. Енді кішкентай ғана ауанша көрілген музей емес, енді шағын ғана музей.
Ajlun Archaeological Museum has been operating since 1993. It has exhibits up to the period of ceramics. This is the Neolithic, Early Bronze Age, Byzantine time, the Ayyubids, and the Mamluks era. Among the items of the Mamluk era, there are earthenware, copper, bronze tools, and petroglyphs.
وأيضا هناك صناعة.
During the Mamluk era, production was developing. The growth rate of international trade increased. This is evidenced by archaeological finds, including coins. They were minted on behalf of each ruling Kipchak Sultan. This is one of the important indicators of the level of economic development. On one side of the coin, there is an inscription with the name of the Sultan. On the other side, there is his sign. The sign consists of an image of an animal and a double Kipchak line. After the Ashland Museum, the scientific expedition team visited the famous Ashland Mosque. It was built in 1247 during the reign of the Ayyubid dynasty. Its minaret was erected in 1263 by Sultan Baybars. In 1332, the son of Qalawun, Al-Nasir Muhammad, made a major overhaul of the mosque. At the entrance to the temple, there is a tablet with a corresponding information.
بالإضافة إلى هذه النواحي الاقتصادية.
8 centuries have passed since the opening of the Ajlung Mosque. The temple is still operating. Minaret has been preserved almost in its original form. This indicates the quality and level of construction of those times. Though there were no automated technologies, builders managed to erect such monumental structures. Therefore, architecture requires more thorough research. In the Mamluk era, urban culture began to flourish around Ajlung Castle. This process was not interrupted. The scientific expedition members got acquainted with the types of economic activity of Ashland city. As it turned out, the local population still runs an economy that began during the reign of the Kipchak Sultans. That is, it is the cultivation of grapes, figs, and olives. By the way, products made from local olives are known throughout the world.
الكازاخية والأردنية علاقات وطيدة جدا.
A confidential political dialogue has been established between Kazakhstan and Jordan. The positions of the two countries on many issues of the international and regional agenda are similar. I think that the legacy left by the Mamluks plays a big role in this. I, as the Dean of the Faculty of Tourism, invite citizens of Kazakhstan to Jordan. Everyone who comes to us will see such historical places as Ajlun and other objects which were built by the ancestors, Kipchak Sultans. Of course, all guests will receive a spiritual uplift and strength. After Ajloun, the Trails of Nomads scientific expedition team stopped in the capital of Jordan, Amman, with a population of over 4 million people. Scientists were met by representatives of the local diaspora. We are sitting in the house of our compatriot Alma. She's from Torgay, Kazakhstan. She invited us to visit her. Next to her are her children, neighbors, and relatives. One of the guests of Alma is Majdi. He's a citizen of Jordan. From 1984 to 1989, he studied in Almaty at the Kazakh Polytechnic Institute. Studying in Kazakhstan is not a simple coincidence, but rather a circumstance related to kinship and proximity to the Kipchaks. Majdi knows a lot about the Kipchak Sultans who founded the Mamluk state, although he is an engineer.
Когда мы говорим главные мамлуки, мы имеем в виду, которые начали мамлукское государство, создали это государство. Это шаджарат ад-дур, Айбек, Актай, Кутуз.
When we talk about the main personalities of the Mamluks, we mean those who founded the Mamluk state. These are Shadzar ad-Dur, Aybek, Akhtay, Kutuz, Baybars, and Kalawan. According to our historical information, all of them are from Deshti Kipchak, that is, from the Kipchak steppe. This is the land stretching from Altai to the Danube. Turkic tribes, Kipchaks, who wandered over this vast territory, lived there. During the Mongol invasion, many tribes went west. Baybars lived in what is now western Kazakhstan, but he was captured in the Crimea and was sold as a slave.
Монгольские войны, многие племена передвигались на запад. Например, Пепарс сам, да, он из западного Казахстана, но он попал в плену в районе Крым. Там его схватили и продали в рынке рабов как раб.
There are many works in Arabic literature that describe the courage and heroism of the Kipchak Sultans. One of them is dedicated to the ruler Kutuz. Majdi focused on it.
И об ихнем подвиге у нас тоже один поэт.
The Arab poet spoke of courage of Kipchaks as follows. A blue-eyed slave, together with a merchant caravan, reached Baghdad. There he was sold to one of the inhabitants of Damascus. However, the man who bought the slave was afraid of his blue eyes and sold him out. So the slave came to Egypt. There he would rise from the status of a slave to the Sultan and would become a defender for all Muslims during the Mongol invasion. This is how the feat of Kutuz is described in Arabic poetry. We respect Kipchaks very much. We treat our friends from Kazakhstan with great respect. In general, it seems to me Kipchaks are around the world.
И, конечно, в наших друзьях Кипчаки, которые мы знаем в Казахстане, и они, по-моему, распространены везде в мире.
A native of the Torgay region, Alma lives in Jordan, and her neighbor Majdi is studying in Almaty. It is like a continuation of those friendly relations which began in the Mamluk era. We are grateful to you for mentioning the Kazakh culture. The fact that we come from the Kipchaks is very honorable.
Көрдіңіз бе, мына жігітте әлі бар, өзінің арғы тұқымы Қыпшақ елі екенін айтып отыр.
You see, this guy Anwar says that his ancestors are Kipchaks and his ancestral home is Kazakhstan. You know that in the 12th, 13th centuries, the territory from Altai to the Danube was called Deshti Kipchak. All who lived there called themselves the descendants of the Kipchaks.
Сол арада тұратын халықтардың көбісі өздерін Қыпшақ еліміз деген.
The work of the scientific expedition Trails of Nomads in Jordan is completed. The next destination is Israel. Kipchak Sultans have left many buildings and structures in this state. For example, a complex built in honor of the Prophet Musa by the instruction of Sultan Baybars. We will tell you more about this in our next episode. See ya.